the league position in the table. It's been well noted that, with all the injuries we've had lots of problems this season. After the pretty much the 10th game of the season, we've had to play pretty much a mix and match team. And yet, when you look at the table, we're only 1 point behind Arsenal at the time of speaking. They've just lost 2 games in a row. So I'll go to you, Sean, first. Will we finish above Arsenal this season, do you think? If you were to make an assessment of where both teams are at the moment, and with the players we've got to come back and all these different things, Arsenal still in Europe and a lot of different elements to it, do you think we're going to finish above Arsenal this season? Or is there a reason to believe we will?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I'm sorry, I've been called out all year for all season from Arsenal fans and from neutrals, because I've been saying that I don't think Arsenal are anywhere near as good as they think they are. Their fans think they are. I think that they thought that last season was this punch through their ceiling, punch through their normal levels, and that's the new normal. Well, maybe it was, but actually the other alternative is that last year they went too high, and now gravity's pulling them back down to earth. I don't think they're that spectacular, and I think that they are one injury away to a key centre back to being incredibly vulnerable. I think that their defense has kept them out of trouble. I don't think their attack is doing anything. I think Martinelli has been poor. I think Saka's been massively underwhelming. Jesus and Nketiah aren't pulling their weight. Thomas Partey, don't know when he's coming back. I think that they're so desperate to look for superlatives that they're making out that Declan Rice is the best signing since sliced bread. And I don't think there was the value for money in that. I genuinely think
Rice isn't the best signing since sliced rice.
So there you go. Right. I feel like I think Arsenal are there for the taking. Obviously, things can change. Injuries can change for Tottenham. Injuries can change for them. I think that if they were to go and get a wonderful signing, if they were to sign an Ivan Toney, if they were to be able to make it happen in January, then maybe that's the final piece of their jigsaw to get them going again. But I think that some of their key players go missing in big games. They've got a lot. If they consider themselves in a title race, the fact that they're now fourth, a point above us, but 5 points behind the leader, then basically every single game from now on for them is a big game, and a lot of their players go missing. We call him Ghostergaard for a reason, right? So for me, I look at Arsenal and I see a lot of vulnerabilities, and I look at Tottenham and I see a huge amount of promise, considering how many players we've got to come back, how much of our excellence we've got, and we're only playing 1 game a week. They've got 2 games a week if they think that they can really fight on 3 different fronts going forward. So for me, I'm not going to get crazy and say Tottenham are in a title race, but I think that what I am going to say is that certainly Tottenham and Arsenal, it's neck and neck. And I think if I, was to be brave enough, and I say that there's absolutely no reason why Tottenham can't finish above Arsenal.
Yeah, I think that's well put. And for you, Rez, if Arsenal had to contend with some of the injuries we did, I think if you look at our injuries, and the equivalent for Arsenal, if Arsenal had to contend without Saliba, Gabriel, Odegaard, and potentially Declan Rice for much of their season, how do you reckon they would? And Saka, how do you think they would cope with those injuries?
They'd have fallen apart by now. They would have imploded. I think, I'm not sure if I'm 100% accurate on this, I think they have had the best or the most fortune when it comes to injuries out of the entire Premier League, I think, right? They have not had to cope with what most of the league has coped with. They certainly haven't coped with what we've had to cope with. And the thing that has been annoying me, I don't like to spend a huge amount of time on Arsenal, if I'm being honest, right? I'm a Tottenham fan. I don't necessarily base my support on what they're doing. It is part of my support, but it's not the main aspect. What we've had to cope with this season has been this almost avalanche of media filleting over Arsenal are going to win the league this season. Gabriel Jesus is, for me, one of the top 2 most overrated players in Premier League history. He has never delivered, never, right? And yet all of a sudden he's the savior of Arsenal. He's going to turn them into title winners, right? It's all fluff. It's all surface. It's like Arteta himself. you know, when he recently, when he was quite early into his tenure, there was someone, the Guardian did a fluff piece on him. And I always bring this up about how he planted an olive tree outside his office at the training ground. Yeah, because olives make you a better footballer, right? This guy, he's not equipped either, right? Captain Lego is really not a top flight manager as far as I'm concerned. He took Unai Emery's team and won a couple of pots with that. And now Unai Emery is actually showing him and showing Arsenal fans what a good manager he actually was, and the opportunity that they spurned when they had Unai Emery, right? They're nowhere near, as Sean says, they are nowhere near as good as they think they are. You know, they are still second rate at best, and they still would have a lot more work to do before they can be considered title challengers. We are in a similar position in as much as we're building towards something. We're behind them because we're earlier on in our process. But if you came back, if Ange Postecoglou was here in 5 years' time, and you come back and see Tottenham, they would be streets ahead of where Arsenal are now, 5 years into the Arteta project.
Do you think if you just took both teams' performances from this season and you asked someone to look at it fresh, who would be in the 5-year project and who would be in their first year? Do you think they would be able to tell?
Yes, I think they would, because there's polish to what they do. There is polish to what they do. It's just not particularly good. That's the thing. You see that with their front three. They've got, out of all of the sort of, you know, the big teams, if you like, they've got the lowest by a long way. I think something like 12 or 15 goals between their three principal attacking players. You know, we've got 23, you know, and we're still not firing perfectly. You can tell that they've been together a bit longer. You know, they do have some good passages of play. They're just blunt. They're blunt and they're thin. You know, a couple of injuries and they will plummet down that table. They will start dropping points right, left, and centre. They've just been really fortunate in that they've got a first 11 that can keep them sort of ticking over, got them to the top of the table. But now, as fatigue sets in, as tiredness sets in, their levels start to drop enough that the ones that have got decent squads and have got their stuff together and understand the philosophy of what they're doing, like your Liverpools, like your Aston Villas, they're the ones that are showing consistency.
Where do you stand on this, Brian? Do you see us now in the same ballpark as Arsenal, or do you still think we got some catching up to do?
No, I think we're in the same ballpark. I really do. Unfortunately, I've got a few very, very close friends that happen to support that lot down the road. And they've all said to me individually, do you know what? If we had your injuries, I would rather have Postecoglou in charge rather than Arteta to see us through, because they just don't think Arteta could focus or could deal with it as well as Postecoglou has had to deal with it. We're 1 point behind them. And they go talking about Saliba. And don't get me wrong, Saliba is a wonderful player. I think he's one of the best defenders in the league. We haven't been able to play our two centre-backs together since Chelsea. Yeah. We keep going on about it. There's just 1 point. And if you look at the gulf between us at the end of last season, we looked a million miles away from them. Like, I thought after the way we ended last season, I thought, all right, well, that was a good 6 years we had above them. Now here we go again. We're going to have to wait God knows how long to do it again. Well, what we've achieved under Ange in this short period of time just goes to show, once our players are back, if January is successful as it started to look, with Dragosten looking like it will be done, Sarr signed, then that should be Arsenal fans called Harry Kane a one-season wonder. Them finishing above us, hopefully, will be a one-season wonder. And then the golfing class will just expand, because I think everything on the playing side is what we're looking at now. Manager, players, is all going in the right way. And if we can keep this team fit, if Maddison comes back and gets to the levels he was at, if Van der Ven comes back to the levels he was at, and everyone can chip in, and Son comes back unharmed from career, as does Basuma and Sarr, my God, this team on paper is a lot more ruthless than that lot down the road. And when they come to our lot, when they come to our patch in April, hopefully that'll be. Can you imagine, like we done it on the last game of the season at White Hart, or the last North London derby where we confirmed St Tottenham's day is over? Let's hope we can do that again come April, or whatever it may be. I think we're in a much bigger and stronger position than them, and we do finish above them. I really do think it.
Yeah, I think we've put ourselves in an amazing position considering, the injuries that we have. And, even even if you just look at the football both sides have played this season, I think we're playing a lot better brand of football. I think if you look at I think there was a stat, I think we're top of the league for goals scored from open play. And Arsenal are near the bottom. They're really struggling to score goals from open play this season. They've had to rely very heavily on penalties and set pieces to get them out of trouble. And yes, I know all good teams, have to be good at those things, set pieces and stuff. I know Man City like a very good team from set pieces, but it's very impressive to Tottenham to be where they are so early on. And considering that we've got all those injury problems, to only be a point behind them, logic would state for me that once we get those injuries back, we're definitely gonna have an amazing. I just think we got an amazing chance to do it this season, which I never expected. I really thought Arsenal would kick on from last season. I really thought, Saka and Martinelli both being 21 and 22, just the more games, they're just going to press on. And I'm sure maybe they can have incredible second half of the season, but first half they just haven't been at the level just yet. I thought that young team would really kick on. They haven't just. I think Arteta's basically started to run before he can walk a bit. I think he's seen what Pep does every season. He always keeps other oppositions on their toes. He changes things up. And I think this season, because I think Arsenal didn't win it last season, I think he's like, okay, I need to stay ahead of the competition, so I'm going to change up the way we're playing, and we're going to go for more control and less fast-paced, free-flowing football like we were last season to try and stay ahead of the competition. But I think he had a good thing going last season. I think he started to change too much, and look, it hasn't gone completely wrong because they're still, right up there. But they clearly, especially on the eye test, I think the stat, the number of points and stuff they have, I think it tells the story that they're just not as good as they were, especially first half of last season. And maybe Arteta's been tinkering a bit too much with how they're playing, and we have caught up with them. I think the fact we're so close. This is 20 games in. This is halfway through. This isn't 10 games or anything. This is a substantial amount. This is an amount where you can really start the league does start to take shape at this point, doesn't it? So I really think we've got a very good chance of finishing above them this season, considering the way things are going.
I think we do. I think the issue with Arsenal, this is the problem with. This is the problem with Arsenal as a club, right? And I'm going to take my Spurs hat off. Completely objectively, you have a club that only looks at the surface of things, right? Mm-hmm. This is Arsenal's problem. There is no bottom there, yeah? They're surface only, right? It's like why they spend so much time talking about how many of their players have been in the media in the last couple of years saying, oh, I could have signed for Spurs, but didn't. Who the hell cares? Really? Who cares? Concentrate on your game. Go out there and become a winner. Don't talk about your rivals. Who are you pandering to? Who are you actually appealing to? Right? This is Arteta, okay? I have not seen anything about Arteta during his career as a player or as a manager that screams leader to me. Right? I don't watch a huge amount of Arsenal games. I do watch some because they're on. It's Premier League, whatever. I witnessed, I think it was Pedro Porro, ran over to Ange Postecoglou. I think it might have been in the Bournemouth game when we scored, and gave him this massive bear hug. I have not seen a player run up to Arteta and hug him and have a personal moment with him. Right? He's not a leader. He is a second-rate man. He is a puppet. He is Guardiola's puppet. That's what I call him. Right? And this is not because I dislike him. I do dislike him. And it's not because I'm a Spurs fan. This man is not a leader. This man is not someone who will inspire wins. When you go into a press conference and you piss and moan about officials when your club has had more penalties than any other Premier League side in this season, that is not the attitude of a winner, right? The attitude of a winner is when Postecoglou is asked about that slight disagreement that they had with the Bournemouth coaching staff, and he says, "Oh, we were just wishing each other Happy New Year." That's a leader, right? And Arteta is not that, and that's the problem with Arsenal right now.